Pro Football Reference continues to lose its mind in Week 5 of the NFL season. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. It is Wednesday. Normally, we'd be doing a different video here, but like I said yesterday, we're moving the schedule around to accommodate this Thursday night game. I want to get the stuff from the Giants game out of the way before this Niners game. So once this game is played, I know that people are not going to want to be thinking about the Giants game. Either we beat the Niners and everybody's like, who cares about the Giants game? We beat the Niners. Or we lose to the Niners and people are like, who cares about the Giants game? We lost to the Niners. So either way, we're just going to go ahead and move past that. And we're going to bump the Thursday morning video to Wednesday morning. And by the way, the Friday morning video is going to get bumped to a little later today as well. And we'll do the typical Wednesday videos, which don't really have anything to do with the Seahawks directly, to probably Friday. So that way tomorrow's all about the game, and basically everything will make sense, even though the schedule's been moved around. And then next week we can kind of go back to normal. Okay, so this is going to be Pass Coverage Thursday on a Wednesday. Also, just to remind people, and I'm going to talk about this in the next video I do as well, just so everyone understands, my stream with the Hawk's Nest, previewing this Niners game and talking about the last week's game, the Giants game, is going to go up in about 3 hours. So we're going to be doing it at noon my time on Wednesday, and we are going to do we're going to do the normal show at a different time. And I know there will be fewer people there because people are going to be at work, but it's the only time we can make for it this week. We can't do it Thursday night for obvious reasons, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so Pass Coverage Thursday, and I have some bad news. Pro Football Reference is not doing their job right now. Well, they're doing their job. Well, they're doing it poorly. I'll put it to you that way, because they're inputting some data that doesn't make any sense and is impossible. And I think I figured out what it is, but there's only so much that I can do to fill in the blanks. I've tried, but basically what they're doing is they're inputting yards and air yards and yards after the catch, touchdowns and interceptions for each player in coverage allowed, but they're not doing targets or completions. So, like, just as an example, Jerome Baker, his yards went way up this week because he allowed a lot in coverage, according to PFR. His targets and completions did not go up. It's impossible to allow yards without allowing completions. That literally doesn't, that defies the laws of physics. So I had to estimate what the targets and completions were on my own, which may be accurate, but it may not be accurate. And they didn't do it for every player. They did it for some players. Jerome Baker was one example of a player they did it for. So what I did, I marked every player where I had to estimate targets and completions in red, and the players that were updated with target and completion numbers are left alone. So if it's red, that means I did my best to estimate what the numbers are. But keep in mind, the only thing that's official would be the yards, air yards, yards after the catch, touchdowns allowed, interceptions allowed, because everything else is influenced by targets and completions. So Pro Football Reference, get on that, because you did it for some players. As near as I can tell, you did it for most players, but you didn't do it for the most important ones. Maybe this is something they'll do later this week. I don't know, but it's kind of a big oversight, and it's making the numbers come out completely nonsensically. But anyway, let's do the best that we can with what we have. Let's start with the linebackers here. Jerome Baker did get beat up a little bit in coverage, according to PFR, gave up over 50 yards. PFF was basically in line with that as well, I believe. And it's pretty much all on screen passes. I think they gave both of those screen passes on the first Giants drive of the game to Baker, the 3rd and 17 conversion, and then the one on the very next play. I think Baker got both of those. So a little bit of cracks in the armor, I guess you could say. Really, the first time this year, it felt like a linebacker was getting slapped around in coverage that didn't have a valid excuse, right? Like Tyrese Knight, I don't care if he gets slapped around in coverage. He's a rookie. But Baker and Dodson, not so much. Dodson actually, by the way, didn't get smacked around in coverage according to PFR. They gave him like 1 completion allowed for 6 yards, or maybe it was 2 completions. So that's fine. I'm still not convinced that Dodson is playing well in coverage. I think he's just not getting targeted. I think there's a lot of confusion going on the back end right now, and maybe that's not surprising, but I am not entirely convinced that Dodson's game is accurately reflected by these coverage numbers. But at the end of the day, they are what they are. They're not the concern right now if you're trying to figure out the pass coverage woes. Well, Dodson isn't. Maybe Baker is. Knight and Thomas did not play on defense, so there's nothing there. Edge rusher, there was, I believe, 1 target in this group. I think it was Draymond Jones. Let me make sure I have that right here. Yes. Draymond Jones gave up 1 catch for a total of 12 yards. So that was on top of the 1 target that he got earlier in the season where it was an incomplete pass. So really not much to report here. The edges are not getting targeted in coverage that much, and they are dropping back in coverage a decent amount. So it's notable, right? It's notable that they don't get targeted that much. So silver lining, I guess, right? The edges are not getting beat up. In fact, if you grouped all the linebackers together, you might say that we're pretty happy with these results right now. So now we get to cornerback, and this is where things get really, really tragic, because our top 3 corners, none of them had updated target or completion data. So I had to estimate based off common sense and my excuse me, and my own evaluations. I baked in a little bit of PFF data as well. Excuse me. And this is what I came up with. Hopefully it's accurate. Hard to know, but I went with the best that I could dig up. And hopefully by this time next week, or, well, Thursday next week, let's call it, because that's the next time I'll do one of these videos, it's adjusted. So, near as I can tell, according to PFR, what they're trying to say, and failing to say because the data didn't update, Devin Witherspoon, 26 targets, 17 completions allowed, 65%, 195 yards. So in this game, by the way, he did totally fine. I want to stress that. Devin Witherspoon, I think he allowed, like, according to PFR, they gave him, I believe, less than 20 yards allowed. Yeah, 14. So he got targeted a lot. He gave up a lot of completions. They just didn't go anywhere. So I'm fine with that. PFF more or less agreed. I think they gave him blame on 1 more play than PFR did, but it wasn't a big difference. Overall, of course, we're still disappointed in the way Witherspoon is playing this year a little bit, but I think some of it's overblown. We have much bigger problems than Devin Witherspoon. I'll put it to you that way. Woolen, as near as I can tell, did not get targeted this week. His numbers didn't move because he legitimately didn't get targeted. It's still 11, 3, 24 yards, almost all of it air yards, 1 pick, QB rating of 1.7. Near as I can tell, he didn't get targeted once. And it's obviously really cool that he's having such a good season in coverage so far. This is 2007 Nnamdi Asomugha stuff. But it also goes to show how little that can matter sometimes, right? Because we got lit up in that game. Woolen doesn't get targeted once the whole game. Awesome. But you still get blown off the field by the Giants offense missing their 2 best playmakers. So what's it worth, right? So that's why you need... It's not baseball. You can't hide one really atrocious player. You need everybody working at least fairly well. And somebody did not work fairly well. In fact, he didn't work at all on this particular Sunday, Tre Brown. Again, I had to estimate the target and completion data, but I think he got targeted 7 times, allowed 6 completions for about 100 yards. That's about as bad as it gets. Remember, Tre Brown's not even on the field every play. He allowed 100 yards as a part-time corner. And he played a lot in this game, don't get me wrong. He was on the field most of the time, but still. You got Reek Woolen not getting targeted once. You got Witherspoon giving up less than 20 yards, less than 15 yards. And then Tre Brown's out there getting abused. And by the way, that's not even counting the 2 holding penalties he had. So that's as bad as it gets. Now, unlike many people in my comment section and Discord and YouTube stream chat, I'm going to allow him the opportunity to get back up. I've seen him have too many good games and too many good moments to not. But yeah, it's one of those things where you just had a really, really bad game in a situation where everybody's going to notice because the other corners are cleaning up. 117 QB rating allowed. He did allow a touchdown in this game. Not what you want. Pritchett got targeted 4 times for 2 completions. I think it's identical to what PFF had, actually. 22 yards, so I'm fine with that. Pritchett, I think, I don't know if he played well, but I think he competed. I think he tried. I think he gave effort, and I'm not hating. You guys know I loved Pritchett coming out of the draft, for whatever that's worth. So maybe I'm a little too close to home on this one, but Pritchett, he's my guy, and I think he played fine, given the situation we're thrusting him out into. Sub 80 QB rating allowed when targeted, by the way. We like that. Well, let me move my head so you can actually see these numbers. Sorry about that. And finally, safety, where once again, both starters did not have updated target or completion data. So I did the best that I could. Keep in mind that, again, it may not be accurate, and hopefully by the next week I'm able to actually make it accurate. Julian Love, he got targeted, I think it was like, what was it, 3 times in this game, and he allowed 3 completions. And he did allow a touchdown in this game. I think that pretty much everybody knows that. By my count, it was, what is this, 32 yards. Not the best, not really what you want. He's a safety, but also not atrocious, right? But this is kind of what I've been saying with Julian Love, right? He's a good player, but he gets picked on. And so far this year, he's kind of sort of gotten picked on in a way that even guys like Jamal Adams, not even close, actually. Jamal Adams' coverage numbers were great compared to this stuff. So Love's a good player, but in this area, kind of lacking. Rayshon, again, I had to estimate, near as I could tell, it was 2 targets, 2 completions. What did I have for yards here? 19. So, again, these are safeties. Usually safety coverage numbers are very, very good. The fact that our safeties are allowing over 80% completion as a monolith, I think it's actually, if you take everybody, about 85%. Little bit alarming. I am more forgiving of it because teams aren't throwing at Woolen, right? Like, nobody wants to throw at Woolen. So that takes away one big area of the field you might want to throw. So they're going to throw at the safeties more, but you got to hold up a little bit better than this. Like, this is not really cutting it for Rayshon, in my opinion. And both safeties to have over 100 yards allowed in coverage so far, that's, especially when the backup safeties have 50 yards combined between the two of them. Like, it's not really getting it done for me. So, Rayshon, QBR allowed up to 99.4. Kayvon and Kobe were not targeted in this game as near as I could tell. And that's it. So it's starting to get a little bit more troublesome. I mean, let's not forget that these numbers were put up on against an offense with no Malik Neighbors, and they also didn't have Devin Singletary to balance the offense out. They still whooped you. So, not too excited about any of it. But, yeah, longer than usual video because I had a lot of stuff to cover. I will see you guys later, though. Another video coming soon, and then the stream at about noon. And then after that stream's over, we'll probably have a better idea of who's going to be playing in this game tomorrow. And I'll make a video about that. But, yeah. See you guys later. Go Hawks. And better news coming soon, hopefully.